Hey guys, next update video for you today. This time I'm bringing you Trickstars again, and this time it's going to be for the November 2018 format. Made a lot of changes, and yeah, this deck is not tier 1 level, but it's still a very powerful and solid option to play in today's meta. This deck's just really good to disrupt your opponent, and yeah, it's just a good way to also, stop your opponent from adding too many cards from his hand with the effects of Drone Lockbird and all that stuff. So, let's get right to it. So, starting off, we've got the standard 7, 3 Candina, 3 Licorice, and the 1 Lilybell. Candina is your searcher. Licorice is the best card, is your main burner. Every time your opponent adds cards from his deck to his hand, burn him for 200 points of damage. Plus, it's a quick effect where you can reveal the card and target one Trickstar monster you control except itself, bounce it back to your hand and special summon it, and you can chain off of them. If you have 2 in your hand, and Lilybell, it's just great because she's a free summon if you add her to your hand, and she can attack directly, which also recycles your resources. So yeah, definitely great cards to run. Moving on, I decided to go with the Cyber Dragon engine this time, so I'm running that at 3. It's a free summon, and plus it gets you into Mega Fleet Dragon against U-Links, and of course, to deal with problematic cards. And yeah, it's just a good option because you need to be able to break those kind of boards, and plus I like to run it at 3 because I want to see this card as quickly as I can. This deck's primarily going first, but if I'm forced to go second, at least I'll have Cyber Dragon ready in store. And just to help clear out problematic cards as well, we got the 2 Eater of Millions. I was running it at 3, but it got cloggy at 3, so I decided to bump it down to 2, and it seemed to be more balanced this way. So yeah. So moving on to the hand traps already. Gonna be running 3 Ash, 3 Droll, and 2 Honest. Just since my deck's primarily light, with the exception of Eater of Millions. Honest just, because Trickstars still have the problem where they have a hard time beating over big boss monsters, and Honest is just one of those cards that gives them the power boost they need to be able to beat over those kind of cards. So, yeah. And that's it for the monsters. Moving on to spells and traps. Got your Life Stage, which is another searcher, which also is a lockdown in card too, because you can target one face down spell or trap your opponent controls. Your opponent can't activate it unless he can chain off of it, of course. But at the end of the turn, he either has to activate it or just send it straight to the grave. We got Terraforming to search it out. 2 Scapegoats, since these are all semi-limited cards now, but it's just good to give me some extra link plays as well. I'm running 2 Called by the Graves. I don't want to get hit with hand traps myself, so I figured Called by the Graves is a good defensive strategy. 1 Desires. Used to have it at 2, but I decided to bump it back down to 1 again. This card's just one of those cards where I kind of go with 2 sometimes. Sometimes I'll bump it back down to 1. It's just out of personal preference. I don't want to see it all the time, and I only want to see it when I need to see it. 1 Card Destruction, just to help me refresh my hand. It's actually not a bad option. I wish I had Morphing Jar. If I do get one, I'll definitely add it in my deck somehow. I'll find room for it. And of course, 1 Monster Reborn. And that's pretty much it for the spells. Sorry if I'm going through all these faster than usual. I'm boosting the quality of my videos now, so I'm trying to take as less time as I can. That way it doesn't take me too long to upload all these. So yeah. So going into the trap cards, of course you're going to be running 3 Reincarnations. Best card in the deck. Banishes your opponent's hand, lets him redraw, of course, but it's also a Monster Reborn card. Surprised it never got hit, and I doubt it will get hit. 3 Torrential Tributes, just to wipe out boards in case my opponent tries to do something nasty, tries to get into some powerful link plays, or just wipe out their Scapegoats, because some decks still run Scapegoats. For back row removal, I decided to go with Dust Tornado. You can still go with Twin Twisters if you prefer, but I wanted to give Dust Tornado a try. It's not a bad choice. You don't have to discard for cost or anything. You target 1 spell or trap your opponent controls, destroy it, and then you get to set 1 spell or trap from your hand. So it's a good way to, keep your back row live. And since this deck is generally more back row heavy than it is on any other version of Trickstars, that's why I decided to try it out. It's not a bad choice, like I said. Dust Tornado just lets you set a card. You could set a Trickstar Reincarnation as a bait card if you wanted to. That way, you could still get a revival in case if you had one that was dead in your hand, or you forgot to set or at one point or whatever. But again, if you don't like Dust Tornado, go with Twin Twisters. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the extra deck. So I'm just going to keep this fairly simple. Got 1 Holly Angel, just because it's the only Trickstar Link monster you ever need to play. Plus the arrows point down, so it's still a good choice. I took off Crimson Heart entirely, by the way, but it's still a good choice to run if you prefer. But next up is Link Karibo, Link Spider, and of course with Link Karibo we got the Scapegoat tokens. In Link Spider, again, Scapegoat tokens. They're all normal monsters and they're all level 1s. One Underclock Taker, just, that way we can weaken our opponent's monsters if needed. One Akashic, just to help us get a little excavation going. The only Nightmares I'm running are just Cerberus and Phoenix, just to get rid of, like, monsters or back row. Just standard stuff. Unicorn, you can run it for sure if you want to. I don't have Unicorn, as I mentioned in my last video, but if I ever get one, I'll definitely run it. We got one Ningirsu just to give us a little draw strength, but to go with it, you have to run Ib, the World Chalice Priestess. So these cards actually synergize very well with one another, and they prevent your opponent from destroying them if they're co-linked or something. So, yeah. Another good way to get rid of back row is Topologic Trisbana, burns them for damage. And generally, you'll be able to pull off Trisbana like real easily in this deck. Another scapegoat target I have is Guy Saber. That's just like the cheaper version of Nightmare Unicorn, but of course I don't have Unicorn. So again, I'm sorry. But Guy Saber, not bad. It's got plenty of attack strength, so I felt like that's just as good. Since, this is Trickstars, naturally going to be running Firewall Dragon to perform the Firewall OTK. For a little bit more draw power, we got Staryaegis Skulldread. It's very easy to make in this deck, trust me. You're never going to have any issues with this guy. And of course, one Topologic Bomber Dragon. Don't have Borreload or Boral Sword. Sorry. And yeah. And finally, the one Mega Fleet Dragon, just because we have the Cyber Dragon, so you may as well figure why not, right? So anyway, that's it for the extra deck. Moving on to the side. So for the side deck, I decided to run 2 Veiler. Still a great hand trap in my opinion, but I feel like 2's enough just because, 2 Retaliating Sea, which I like to use against Gokis or in fact, I've heard Gem Knight FTKs coming back, so Retaliating Sea is actually a good matchup against them. So generally when your opponent activates a spell that includes an effect that can special summon, doesn't matter where it's being special summoned from, as long as it's specials, you can special summon this card from your hand, and any card that goes to the graveyard gets banished instead. So, and it's not hard to get rid of it off your board. You can just link it away if you wanted to. You don't have to keep it on board at all times. It's just a good way to slow down your opponent and force him out of his resources. So Sea is a good option, but I decided to side it out and bump it down to 2. Gonna be running 3 Shared Rides. Just got reprinted in Zombie Horde, so I definitely recommend picking these up now before they start to go up in price, if they do. But generally, you should be able to get these no matter what. So just pick up 3 Zombie Horde structure decks, and the Zombie Horde is pretty good. Don't get me wrong. 2 Drowning Mirror Force. I had it at 3, but bump it back down to 2 just because I figured I didn't really need it as much. It's only good against certain matchups like Altergeist, Thunder Dragons. Well, maybe not too much on Thunder Dragons, but for sure Altergeist. Mask of Restrict, I heard, is actually pretty good against Thunder Dragons, because apparently you need... I don't remember if it was Colossus or Titan that tributes, but it was one of them. It's also strong against True Dracos, keeps them from tribute summoning it entirely. So, any deck that has, tributing effects... Heck, you know what? This shuts down Danger FTK, because Tomb Cannon Soldier tributes. You cannot tribute if Mask of Restrict is out. So, yeah. And another good card against Altergeist or any back row heavy card, Red Reboot. Gotta play that at 3 on the side. So, yeah. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and as usual, I'll catch you guys again on the next video.